Michelle Obama was talking kind of a broader conversation, but she addressed a little nugget, a little story that made me want to talk about kind of another critique of the left from within the left, if that makes sense. So a lot of the right-wing attacks of liberals just make absolutely no sense, and we spend so much time on the show breaking down why that is. But Michelle Obama nicely, in the story I'm about to show you here that she tells, highlights the way that the left, in my mind, takes good intentions too far and ends up actually eating itself alive and not being as effective as it could be. So I'll show you the full context of this, but then later on in this clip, she gets to the part that I'm talking about.
Because I write about how this generation, with this constant negative news and the worry about everything, they're always on their phones, they're getting too much information. The young people I run into are worried. Yeah. They are worried about...
And this is on Conan O'Brien's podcast, it looks like.
The world, all of them. They're worried about climate change. They're worried about crime in their neighborhoods. And they're young thinking about ways to fix everything.
Right.
And they wear themselves out.
What's paralyzing?
It's paralyzing, totally paralyzing. When the thing they need to do is focus on your knitting.
Yeah.
All you can do at 12, 15 is go to school.
Yeah.
Go to class, finish your homework. Start there, because that's the stitch. Those are the stitches you put together. And if you don't put each of those stitches together, you will never be help to anyone.
Yeah.
Because you will flame out. You will never graduate. You won't learn how to write. You won't know. So you're trying to take on these big problems that are too big for the power that you have. But you do have power to control the thing you can. That's why I say, when I got into the White House, when people asked me what was going to be my agenda, I said, well, my first focus is going to be mom in chief, because I have to make sure that the kids I'm in charge of are good before I can help anybody else's kids. And I got criticized by feminists about that, like mom in chief. And I was like, well, of course I'm going to do everything else. That was a given. I know how to work. I know how to be a professional. I knew, but I thought it was an important thing to say, I have to control what I can. I brought these 2 kids in the world. I have to be a good mother to them before I can help anybody.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll stop it there. So the part that's fascinating to me is that she got criticized by feminists for that label, mom in chief, or putting her children first. And yes, it was Conan O'Brien. Needed a friend episode of that podcast. So we'll address that in just a second here. But the build up to it was also interesting, that she feels the younger generation's children are worrying too much about the problems of our world too early. And it is interesting because I love to see the social awareness that is beyond many people's years within younger generations. It's kind of how I was younger than most, already diving into politics and all of that. And it was really interesting and really important and all that. But then you do see the negative side of that being a level of anxiety that you really don't need to be putting on children, where they have to worry about all these global and country-related issues that right now they can't really affect. And so it's getting that balance of being aware early on, which I think is good, but then not being too bought into those things where you're stressed all the time as a child when you should be having fun and going to school and developing and all of that. But then she says, at least from her account, she got backlash from feminists, meaning people on the left, liberals, who felt her proclaiming that her top priority was going to be her kids and saying mom in chief and taking issue with that. And the perspective that they're taking issue with that from is, no, you need to be kind of an icon for a woman getting out there and achieving things in the career aspect of your role, and make your mark that way. So mom in chief is a little traditional or something like that. And that's what I don't like. I don't like that criticism of individuals. And I've talked about the push from liberals to be more inclusive, myself included, inclusive and aware that not everyone falls into the traditional box, and the old ideas from a more traditional time, if you want to use that word, don't apply to everyone, and hinder people from living a free life that is of their choosing. So with the feminist movement, pushing for a world where women are absolutely celebrated for their successes and careers and are only confined to being in the home and all that. And that's incredible. And that is such a great fight that continues to this day. But we can't then be exclusionary of people who choose by their own choosing. This doesn't apply to Michelle Obama because she had not a traditional life at all, but this reminds me of it, who choose a more traditional life. So if you do choose to be a woman who raises children and end up being in the home a lot and doing those type of traditional type roles, that, if it was of your choosing and you weren't scolded into it, also can be celebrated. We can celebrate people going out there and getting it with their career, and if they choose to raise a family, because all of that's necessary to our wonderful, beautiful world that we want to create. And that's something that I've been kind of thinking about. How can the progressive movement both encourage all of these different pushes, but for now we'll talk about it with the context of within the context of the feminist movement, women to be celebrated and pushed to achieve incredible things and not fit into a traditional box if they don't want to, while also being loving and inclusive and celebratory of people who make that choice and want to raise a family, want to do their thing, and want to put their kids as a top priority with Michelle Obama's case. And so one of the things that I think the right wing doesn't do, they're getting more into it now, which is fun to see, but the left has always done, is tear each other apart at any point in time. All the time, we're always going after each other. And we have a hard time uniting with one another because something tiny can set off a certain part of the left movement to go after someone. So no one should criticize Michelle Obama if she chooses, or in the case, back then, she chose to say, Mom in Chief, that's my number one role, and then I'm also gonna go and make huge impact on the country broadly in a more career type role. That should not garner a backlash from anyone within her movement. And that's why I think we have a hard time as the left launching forward, because we're too busy screaming at each other for relatively small things, whereas at least historically the right in recent times has been able to unite quicker because they want to beat the Democrats and that's their top priority, or they want to make the libs cry or whatever it might be. And I think the left getting a little bit more unified and a little more tolerant of people who are just a little bit different than your perfect ideal from whatever set of ideology or whatever issue you're fighting for would be a really good thing. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before any of the clips are uploaded to YouTube, plus get a full extra show every single Saturday, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Luke Beasley. That's patreon.com/Luke Beasley, and there's a link in the description.